Well, hello friends, welcome back to Homestead on the Hill. It has been a long while since I have given you guys a homestead update because we have been so busy with all things spring. Between planting our crops for the farm and getting the garden planted as well, taking care of all the things that need, replenishing in the spring on the homestead, it's been busy and it has just been a wonderful spring. We have had some good moisture now and the crops are planted, the garden is mostly planted as well. So I thought on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend, it would be a wonderful time to give you a little garden tour. So let me show you what our garden looks like for this year. So let's start with a tour of the main garden here. Now this year I opted to go with weed fabric. I have never put weed fabric down. I'm learning as I go, but we have baby number 3 coming in the end of July. So I wanted to do the most I could to take care of myself and baby while also still having a garden. So as we walk in the gate here, these are just some zinnias that I have planted. They were just planted not too long ago, but it looks like we maybe have some little babies just starting to pop. And then I also have some rosemary that I bought a start of. That is right over here. Then moving back by the gate again, this is a pot of flowers that my daughter planted at Sunday school. We have some marigolds that look like they need a little cleaning off that my daughter and I had started, and I can't quite remember exactly what this was, but it looks like we have a couple flowers coming up. I actually had taken and put, if you've never done this before, take pop bottles or pop cans and crinkle them in the bottom and then put your dirt on top, and you can save a lot of soil in a big pot. However, we had what I believe to maybe be a coon in our garden. I'll tell you more about that and why that happened. But he had dug this whole pot apart. And so this pot is just kind of a mess. But it's just been here and I haven't really taken much time to care for it. Here we have what is the mess of the asparagus bed, but it gets like this every year. And guess what? Every year it still produces awesome asparagus. We have some that's already going to seed, which I believe is maybe because we had some really hot temps here a couple weeks back where we were just consistently in the 80s, upwards of 90 for multiple days. So this always kind of turns to a mess, but it works out every year. Then we have our rows of potatoes, and this has been perfect. I've been borrowing my parents' little tiller there, and it actually fits perfectly right between these rows. So I just was able to till in between there a little bit. And same with my onions. I left these without weed fabric. I thought it would be kind of hard to do weed fabric in between them. So I left them so I could till with the little tiller in between, and then I'll go back and I will hand weed the actual rows. So that's been working well. And as we come this way, I have some zinnias that we had planted from seed very, very early this year. And of course they need weeding too. As we get into some of the rows, I have started here in this first row is some radishes, and then we have beets coming. These rows, I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to do them. So I laid my weed fabric down, and then I actually cut rows in and planted right into the cut of the row. We'll see how it works out and how I like it, but that was a little bit challenging for me. This next row, we have some peas, and they are very sporadic in how they are coming up. We had some goofy moisture in planting, and so we'll see how they come up if we need to replant or whatnot. Then we had some peas and some beans. We've got some beans there that are also in the same boat as the peas. So we'll see how they come up in the next week or so if we need to do any replanting. Then I direct sow a lot of my cabbage, and that's what these spots are here. So those are direct sown, and then once they start to come up, as you can see here, then I will thin them down to 1 cabbage per spot. And then we did broccoli and cauliflower the exact same way. Over here I have my peppers. I have some that I had started indoors at home here, and then I have the ones that I got from our local greenhouse that were absolutely massive. My mom had picked them up for me, and they are just beautiful. So those are definitely further ahead. I have the cinder blocks here because we had some unbelievable wind, and so I had actually had the cinder blocks over top of the peppers to protect them during those massive winds. Then next here I have some cabbage starts that I bought at a local greenhouse that were just, they looked so nice and they were super cheap, so I grabbed some of those. And then I had grabbed some sage to hopefully repel some of the cabbage moss and whatnot, everything that wants to eat your cabbages. I'm trying to add sage in between to see if that helps. So that's what we have here. Next row I left is carrots, and I did these a little different this year to where I planted them, and I put potting soil in that area that I planted them because carrots really like really nice soil, and my garden is not the most perfect soil. It's a little bit clumpy some years, so we're trying that. And then back in this big area, I have some pumpkins that I have started again from seed. And I think back there, I have zucchinis that I started from seed as well. I start a lot of things from seed, and I typically have good luck because it is just that much easier. Right along this fence here is where our pole beans will be coming up, and so they will just go up the side of the fence, which is a great way to also keep, any extra little animals out. And then back here, I just had some cosmos that my daughter and I had started indoors this winter, so transplanted those out. Here is our garlic patch, and that is doing really well, and our strawberry patch. And I am happy to say I've been keeping up for the most part with the grass in the strawberry patch this year, which is always a huge challenge for me. But we are starting to get some flowering, and even see some little strawberries starting to set here. If we look, there we have some strawberries starting to set as well. I recall, I believe this patch is our ever-bearing patch. I have a few June-bearing strawberries as well, but I believe this is the ever-bearing patch. Over here is where I have my tomatoes. Now this is what happened with what I believe maybe was a coon, rodent of pest of some sort. So I have literally for years put a crushed egg in the hole before planting my tomatoes. I have never had issues. This year I had issues. This year, for the first time ever, I had issues with putting an egg in the bottom of my tomato plants, and actually I had whatever it was came in and it, without tipping over any of the cement tiles, pulled every one of my tomatoes except for like 3 and dug up the egg. And so that was a lesson learned for me this year. I had to replace a large majority of my tomatoes, and it was pretty sad because I had actually started my tomatoes this year. I hadn't planned on it, but I ended up doing some beautiful ones with my daughter, and we ended up having to replace them. So again, I've done that for many years, never had an issue, but this year we had an issue, and that was actually what dug in my pot as well, and it dug up one of my peppers as well, but I did not have eggs in the bottom of my pepper holes. So it took one and then realized there was nothing there and stopped. So anyways, that's just my note. Be careful with doing it. So we'll see if we decide to do it in the future. And if you have any tips on that, let me know. I'd love to hear what has worked, hasn't worked well for you, what you've seen to be a problem, and what hasn't been. So now moving on from our tomatoes, and which most of my tomatoes are all, except I think I have one cherry tomato. They're all Romas or San Marzanos, because we do pretty much all sauce making here. We don't do a lot of fresh tomatoes. I also planted some oregano, and then I have in the very back there corner, you probably can't see it from here, is some thyme. Again, to try to repel some of the pests from our tomatoes, and I just really like having fresh oregano and thyme as well. So moving on, we have two sorts of pickling cucumbers. One is along this fence, and then another along here. And so I have built those so that they can trellis up, because both are climbing cucumbers. And that pretty well finishes out the main garden and the tour of that garden. So I will just give you a brief sweep as to what it looks like as a whole. And then we can bop over to the perennial garden. Now coming over to my perennial garden, starting on this end, this has just a few of, I believe what it's a June bearing strawberries coming up in there. This strawberry bed has always really struggled, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that here. I actually took part of it and planted some cosmos, and I can't remember what the other flower is that I planted in there, but we've got a few different flowers in there, and you can see they are starting to come up, which is really cool. Always fun to see. Then I have some black raspberries here, and then we start into the red raspberries. These were transplanted, I can't remember if it was a year or two ago now, and only 4 of them have survived, which I believe I originally transplanted maybe 12. And I could definitely transplant some more and fill in from my main red raspberry patch. But right now I am managing my energy with baby. And so I don't know if that'll actually get done this year or not. Again, it works really well to be able to run the little tiller in this bed. We have some catmint there. I have some new starts here that I just recently planted. Again, I cannot remember. I should really label out in the garden. I have on my garden map what I have started there. This is what is it called? The blanket flower that is coming back up here. And my snowcap daisy doesn't seem to be coming back, but we will see. We'll let it be, see if it comes back. Over here, again, more starts that I can't remember what they are. Back here is my pineapple mint, and I do indeed see it starting to come through there, which is always super fun to see that start coming in. Lemon balm doesn't really overwinter super well, so I don't know that that'll be coming back up. I have my bleeding heart here, which this had died off, completely died off last year, so I'm super excited to see that coming back. And I think somewhere in here I had maybe some lavender planted, and I'm not sure if that's gonna come up or not, but that is kind of what we have going in the perennial bed here as well. So that's the tour of the garden that I have for you this Memorial Day weekend. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight as to what somebody else's garden looks like. I always enjoy getting to see and just see how other people are managing their weeds, managing their energy. To the side here, we also have our orchard and our other raspberry patches. Lots of fun things, some fun sunflowers coming up. But for the most part, we keep it pretty basic and just do our best to manage it and get a good crop by the end of the year. If you enjoyed this video, as always, I'd love if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Homestead on the Hill here on YouTube, and come back to see our garden progress throughout the growing season.